One of the outstanding geniuses of the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, is as famous for his science as he is for his painting. Even in his own time, he was renowned in the fields of mathematics, geometry, optics, physics, chemistry, civil and mechanical engineering, pyrotechnics, and zoology. As an engineer, he had ideas far ahead of his time, inventing the helicopter, solar power, a calculator, the armored tank, and even developing a theory of plate tectonics. It's thought that, rather like Nikola Tesla, he may have been in touch with or influenced by extraterrestrials aiming to accelerate our speed of technical and civil advancement. He was a cryptologist, and that's why many researchers think that he may have left secret knowledge hidden within his work, which, when deciphered, may provide the keys to unlock the universe. Vinci, a town in northern Italy, was his birthplace. He took his name as, being illegitimate, he wasn't allowed to use his father's name, just the place of where he was born. As a teenager, Leonardo moved to nearby Florence, which at the time was the center of a cultural revolution known as the Renaissance, when new ideas, both scientific and cultural, exploded onto the scene. The zeitgeist infused and seeded the mind of young Leonardo, who, largely self-taught, found himself master of so many new and exciting disciplines. Though he was widely admired by many of his contemporaries, the most powerful political force throughout much of the world had their doubts about him: the medieval Roman Catholic Church. The trigger for the Renaissance was the rediscovery of ancient classical writings that had been stored, unnoticed, in monasteries following the dissolution of the Roman Empire. For almost the first time, Europeans could study the works of Aristotle, Plato, and the other great philosophers. Unfortunately, many of their ideas did not sit well with Christianity. Although Da Vinci was a Christian, he openly admitted to being interested in a wide range of spiritual philosophies and their secret knowledge. Let's look closely at one of his paintings, actually very closely, using a specialized infrared camera developed by Dr. Maurizio Saraceni, graduate of the University of California, San Diego. And what he found under the surface of the Adoration of the Magi was as revealing as it was surprising. The Adoration of the Magi, painted around 1481, shows the three wise men visiting the baby Jesus in Bethlehem. Like traveling back in a time machine, the camera revealed Leonardo's creation layer by layer. But he wasn't ready for the heretical image that came to view, a scene showing a pagan temple rising from the ruins of a Christian church. Total heresy. Little wonder that Leonardo painted over it. Elsewhere, Dr. Saraceni found a scattering of figures, cavalry horses and classical architecture set in a rural scene. And at the top left of the painting, Saraceni uncovered two people in great distress, sitting on the stairs of a ruined temple. But on closer inspection, he realized that it wasn't a temple in ruins. It was actually an Egyptian temple being built, showing the techniques being used. And tellingly, the top of the temple's columns was capped by a lotus flower, which to ancient Egyptians represented the flower of life. The flower of life tells the entire story of how the universe was created using sacred geometry. The idea of sacred geometry comes from the belief that a god used a geometric plan to create the universe. Such thoughts have ancient origins. Plato said, "God geometrizes continually." Leonardo da Vinci was completely obsessed with sacred geometry. He even compiled the sacred geometry principles of the human body in the famous and influential drawing known as the Vitruvian Man. His hidden symbol of the flower of life in the Adoration of the Magi may indicate that he had tapped into this source of the ultimate cosmic knowledge. But something quite strange happened that seemed to accelerate his genius. He disappeared completely for 2 years, between the ages of 24 and 26. Fortunately, he wrote about it in his journal. He'd gone off hiking in the nearby countryside and had found a cave. As he stood before it, he felt a strange power drawing him inside. Curious, he did not resist it, and on entering the cave, he felt transformed. It's conceivable that, through the influence of his understanding of the flower of life, he found himself communicating with the originators or controllers of the universe, extraterrestrial teachers, who influenced him and opened his eyes to the workings of the universe and a glimpse into the future. And from that time onwards, he no longer had to measure ratios or proportions. It just came to him spontaneously, tapping into something that brought knowledge and information in the same way that the ancient cultures received theirs. It's obvious that his experience in the cave had had a profound effect upon him, and in the painting, The Virgin on the Rocks, the setting is unprecedented. The Virgin Mary, the angel Uriel, and the babies Jesus and John the Baptist are all set against a background of rock formations and, in the distance, mountains and water. In this cave-like painting, was he pointing to revelations that he'd witnessed during his missing years? And was his use of the painting technique, sfumato, an indication of some kind of portal? Sfumato creates a hazy, out-of-focus plane that Leonardo described as without lines or borders, in the manner of smoke or beyond the focus plane. The depiction of the archangel Uriel is unusual. The story is that both Jesus and John had to escape King Herod's order. Jesus, Mary and Joseph fled to Egypt, and according to the apocryphal story, the angel brought John the Baptist to accompany them. However, the source of this story comes from the apocryphal Gospel of John the Baptist, where the angel is identified as Gabriel, not Uriel. Why did Leonardo change this? Uriel was the archangel of wisdom, a celestial being from the heavens who was thought to be the guardian of secret knowledge. And notice that in the painting, he's pointing his index finger at Jesus. The pointed finger is a symbol widely used in alchemy. It represents someone's relationship with the spiritual world, and specifically an indication of a spiritual path. The symbolism isn't Christian, it's profoundly pagan. Perhaps it was Uriel, in the form of an extraterrestrial, whom Leonardo met in the cave, continuing the angel's mission of bringing enlightenment to humanity. Along with the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci's most iconic painting is, of course, The Last Supper, depicting the moment when Jesus informed his disciples that one of them would betray him. It also marked the inception of the Eucharist, the sharing of Jesus' blood and body. It's a most unusual painting. It's almost as if someone has pressed the pause button. All the disciples are in various states of shock, except for one, the character, usually thought of as John the Apostle, to Jesus' immediate right. He's leaning away from Jesus with his eyes closed, almost without emotion. The face is unusually white and the hair is long. And the clothes are not the traditional rough ones of John the Baptist. He eschewed soft or elegant clothing. His face is notably feminine. And that's why many scholars have raised the possibility that he is actually a she. An absurd suggestion? Far from it. In his treatise on painting, Leonardo wrote that a woman should always be depicted, quote, their heads looking downwards and leaning a little to one side. And that's exactly what this character is doing. And the woman, with Jesus, forms a huge M shape, presumably a clue to the name Mary, Mary Magdalene. And notice that both of them are wearing similar clothes in exactly the same manner. In the New Testament, Mary is described as a follower of Jesus. It would be very unusual for a 30-year-old Jewish man at that time not to have a wife, and it's presumed that Mary Magdalene was indeed his wife. But a married Jesus was contrary to Catholic doctrine, and they cast her as a prostitute, even though there is no textual or historical basis for this. Even though it's assumed that the painting is not just about the betrayal, but also about the Eucharist, where is the chalice containing wine, the symbolic blood of Christ? To many biblical scholars, the chalice, known as the Holy Grail, was Mary Magdalene herself. So it is there. The Grail is her womb. For if apocryphal stories are taken seriously, she and Jesus had a number of children, and through the effect of her being the Holy Grail, these children would be special, carrying a new type of DNA to bring about a new and enlightened human race. Two Italian scholars have delved deeper into the obscure symbolism of the Last Supper. Musician and scholar Giovanni Maria Pala has found evidence of musical notation in the painting. Leonardo was an exceptional musician, serving the Medici as a singer and lyre player for many years. The tablecloth has vertical and horizontal lines in the form of a musical score. Several of the items on the table are unusually heightened, loaves of bread in particular. These, Parler suggests, are notes on the score. As famed astronomer Carl Sagan said, "If they were to ask me what to send to establish communication with civilizations beyond our solar system, I'd send the music." And of course, that's what he did in NASA's Voyager program of 1977, when he sent a gold disc of music, sounds and images far into space. We've already seen that Leonardo was an adept at sacred geometry. Like geometry, music is, at its heart, a mathematical enterprise, and much can be hidden in its patterns. The Vatican researcher Sabrina Sforza-Galizia claims to have found a mathematical and astrological puzzle in the painting. She found the meaning in the central half-moon window above Christ, which after deciphering suggests that there will be a universal flood that will swamp the earth in the year 4006, between March the 21st and November the 1st. And looking through Leonardo's documents, this Italian art expert has said that he believed that this would mark, quote, "a new start for humanity." Leonardo's Salvator Mundi is not only the world's most expensive piece of art, but also its most mysterious. Apart from the hypnotic and far-seeing eyes, the most extraordinary aspect of this painting is the crystal sphere in Jesus' left hand. This is the Sintamani stone, the wishful fulfilling crystal sphere of Tibetan Buddhism, the jewel that grants wishes. It's seen clearly in images of the Buddhist deity Kishti-Gaba, and it's usually seen in the possession of a bodhisattva, or enlightened teacher. Two questions come to mind. How would a 15th century Roman Catholic artist have known about a magical 10th century Buddhist symbol? And why would Leonardo put it in a profoundly Christian painting? The answer to this latter question may come from a close inspection of the Sintamani stone. There are 3 white dots, or stars, floating within the transparent orb. 2 of them are slightly closer together. Is this a depiction or a light reflection of the 3 belt stars of Orion, with Alnilam and Mintaka in proximity and Alnitak slightly further away? Orion, as we all know, plays a significant role in ancient cultures. The ancient Egyptians believed it's where the gods came from. Indeed, upon his resurrection, Osiris was said to have returned to his home in the Orion constellation. And the 3 pyramids of Egypt at Giza, along with the 3 great pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico, are arranged in a pattern that resembles Orion's belt. Is Leonardo suggesting, through imagination or more likely inspiration, that Jesus may have come from the constellation Orion, and that indeed it may have been our original home? It seems that Leonardo is saying that there's a cosmic intelligence interwoven within human history. The clearest answer to this puzzle comes by looking at his final and most prophetic work of art, which contains the most astonishing semi-hidden image. In 1513, at the Château du Clos-Lucé, Leonardo da Vinci, now 61 years of age, created one of his most beautiful yet disturbing paintings. It was to be his last creation. St. John the Baptist emerges from the painting, smiling enigmatically like the Mona Lisa, and with his hard, penetrating features stares at us while pointing to the heavens, pointing to another realm. Imagine how this would have looked in a dimly lit chapel. A candle is lit, and the intense-looking character gradually manifests itself, materializing out of the dark. But more than that, if a mirror is held up to its right-hand side, the clear features of an extraterrestrial appear. It's known that optical illusions were popular in paintings from the Renaissance. The artists loved to tease their viewers with a trick of the eye or trompe-l'oeil, including the use of anamorphosis, where you have to look at the painting from a specific angle in order to see something hidden in it. The Ambassadors by Hans Holbein the Younger is probably the most famous such painting, with its mysterious skull. Tricks using mirror images were also popular in the Renaissance, and Leonardo certainly experimented with them. The alien in that painting is not just some modern, cynically fabricated artifact. Leonardo knew what he was trying to communicate, and he was a master of it. When Leonardo da Vinci came out of the cave where he had received inspiration, he felt impelled not only to continue his search for esoteric, hidden knowledge, but also to put codes and messages in his work for those who had eyes to see. Codes and messages that, quite reasonably, could have come from extraterrestrial influence, as indeed he'd suggested.
If you liked this video and you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out the next video on our channel.